Alright, so this is some information I know. Something was on my mind. Today we're going to talk about Montauk's. Montauk's, Mashantuckets, Manitouk, Montauk, Atlan, and Atlas. Every time you research the Montauks, which is a Native American tribe, indigenous, it always comes to a very esoteric, deep connection to Nazi Germany, Tibetan monks, priests, and Atlantis. And so most people don't know that there's pyramids in Montauk. Montauk is East Long Island, near New York City. Most people don't know that there are pyramids there. As you can see, the mound, and then there's pyramid mounds in the back. But I say that to say this: um, what would Montauks have to do with the Black Sun? Right. This is a book by Peter Moon. A lot of people know Peter Moon from the work he does in the conscious sector. But the Montauks is a very, very ancient term. Obviously, you can see it spelled with the K and not a C, because C is relatively new in language. But every time you research the Montauks, you get a very profound story. I'm talking, it relates to mind control. It relates to Nazi German engineering with strange aircraft, and it also relates to crossbreeding between animals on the lands that they used to inhabit. But Montauk, where can I start? Here, let me see. I'll show you a picture. Montauk relates to different tribes like Manitucket, Mashantucket, the Peacock. Obviously, you can see the letter Q, so that's when those natives came in contact with the French. But they have a very profound history, and their names, you notice, I don't know if these was bestowed on them or given to them, but they have the names of Pharaoh, right? And so what would the pharaohs of Egypt and Atlantis have to do with the Montauks? Why were they naming themselves, or the people naming them this? But I'll start with this. They connected to an English name called the Fowlers, like fowl, Fowl, as in birds and birds of prey. Fowlers, wild birds. But one of their chiefs is named Stephen Talkhouse Pharaoh. I'm not sure if he was a chief or a sakim, whatever you may call it. But also you find the names of their family, George Pharaoh, I believe it's Jim Pharaoh, etc., etc. And obviously you can see the Negro, you can see the Negro, misnomer, black, African American, whatever you might want to call it. But anytime these tribes have that bloodline in them, you'll see they have a hard time ever being recognized as native due to the money and the reparations and the corruption behind it. But they're on their land. It's a place called Camp Hero. It's an old Air Force base. It's abandoned, and some things are still active as far as the buildings and infrastructure, but it's quartered off from the public. And strange happenings always have been reported there. Let me see. Let's say, for an example, I'll read a few passages out of this book just to give you some clarity on it. But the word Montauk in itself can be traced to a lot of Tibetan words, and obviously there's a connection with Nazis in Tibet and the use of the swastika and the black sun. Black sun is a symbol. It looks almost like a swastika, but it's in all black, and it was used by the SS Gestapo gang, Nazi Hitler group. But they were allegedly traveling by submarine from Europe to East Long Island. Alright, so I'm going to read a little passage from this about the Nazis and Montauk Island. And so if you read down here, it says, in 1945, the Nazis were convinced the Third Reich was about to fall, and they sent a U-boat to Montauk. U-boat is a type of German engineered submarine, for those that don't know. And it says, containing riches. This U-boat did contain riches seized during the invasion of France, with instructions to bury them underground inside 12 metal shell casings. The German soldiers followed orders, and they buried the treasure at Camp Hero. Camp Hero. Anyways, it was buried with a large rock nearby to be used as the landmark, and after the war, the money and jewels were to be used for bribes, false passports, and safe passage to the United States and South America for high officers of the Third Reich. Now, that little piece right there is shown to you in a movie called The Boys from Brazil. If you've never seen it, go check out The Boys from Brazil, where the Nazis were getting safe passage to South America. Why would they be getting safe passages to South America with passports and fake IDs? Who authorized this? How is it that no governments knew about this? Or did they know? And this book also goes on to explain by Peter Moon, the author of an interview that he had with a lady that was a Montauk resident for a very long time. And just note what she says. She says that Jane then recounted pleasant remembrances of afternoons during World War II as she picnicked at Montauk Point with her friends and family, and they watched fleets of Nazi submarines immediately off the coast. And she said the periscopes would all come up in unison. It looked like an entire forest. It was not just a few subs or a little number as 10. There were lots of them, and Jane said there was no way that any of this was unknown to the general public at Montauk. It was common knowledge. The military, more than anyone else, had to know exactly what was going on. Although there were huge guns at Montauk that could have fired on the subs, they were never used. According to her, there was no mistaking the Nazi subs from those of the Americans. And so many people don't know that Montauk and those pyramids, the geographic coordinates, they relate to a place called Atlan and Atlas and the grid. Atlas is that Greek statue, if you've ever seen it. It's of a so-called Atlantean god who's holding the earth up on his shoulders. And if you look at that globe, it has many grids on it. And those grids are supposed to be geographical coordinates to all the major pyramids across the world. You know, the pyramids of Giza, the pyramids in South America, and Teotihuacan, etc., etc. But it relates to these pyramids too, because allegedly these pyramids are 100 degrees in connection exactly to the pyramids. It's a temple located in Egypt. I forget the name. But nevertheless, how many people know that it's pyramids in Montauk, East Long Island? I mean, that's not widely told to people. But the land by the people is obviously is called Turtleback. And so Turtleback is close to Turtle Island. Also close to that's related to Atlantis, so on and so forth. But when you start talking about like language, I'll tell you something that's close in language, and a lot of this is you can't necessarily find it in your traditional etymon, but you can find it in like the esoteric languages, because a lot of the writers that was a part of a Nazi society called the Vril Society, VRIL, they spoke about how the word Montauk, it has different meanings. One meaning spirit, or I believe tree spirit, and it also means fortress, because if you don't know, the island of Montauk was pushed down by glaciers when the island of Atlantis had sunken, which is, close to the word obviously being related to a high hill or a fortress. There's a Tao priest that was also interviewed by the author of that book, and he said that the priest, his name was Mantak, which is close to Montauk. And so obviously you can see this a phonetic relation right there, and that priest said his name stood for good virtue. Also the Montauk, and there's a shamans. There's American Indian Hopi tribes, the shamans. A word that's close to their spirit guides is called Manatu or Manatutak. And that is also related to a star system in Tibetan language. It's the star system for Orion, and that Orion is allegedly the star system, a star creation for man in the universe. And so the word for that is Mintaka. So obviously it's phonetically close again. But a lot of these things have relation to each other. These places, they have relations to each other because if you know about like Lemuria and Atlan, there's a place you can look this up. It's a string of volcanoes underneath sea level. It's called the Circle of Fire. But anyways, the Circle of Fire was where the area of the continent of Atlan had shrunk once the volcanoes erupted under the water. And so that created what you call the Canary Island currents, is how they were selling from the east to the west and back and forth doing trade, etc. And so when these people dispersed, obviously they went to different places. That's why you have cultural relativity between the ancient groups between Asia and America and so forth, because these people just dispersed. But Montauk, interestingly enough, is also related to an author, Jeffrey Bourne. Jeffrey Bourne was allegedly a part of the mind control experiments that was going on at Montauk. It was DNA, gene manipulation, and crossbreeding between animals. This is where you get the movie Bourne Supremacy from. So yeah, right there in your face. But don't know if this is accurate or whatever it is. But this is part of the German engineering during World War II. It was called the Vril 7 craft. And so this is just interestingly enough, I put this video together because a lot of this stuff was on my mind, and a lot of this information I don't really get to put out. But yeah, Thomas Jefferson, president, also Freemason, was interested in the Montauks. As you can see, this is a picture taken in 1920s. Pocahontas Pharaoh. But you see, Pocahontas, a female name for many tribes. Why? I don't know. There's also a name used in our lineage, and our people is connected with the Cherokees. But yeah, Thomas Jefferson was doing multiple voyages to Long Island to meet with the Montauks to decipher their language and so on and so forth.